Good morning, everyone. I'm speaking to you from the sanctuary of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. Jessica Friesen is our music director. Marie-Claude Leroux is our director of religious exploration. John Piccolo and Paul Galbraith are volunteer directors and technicians this morning. James Morris is our service assistant. It's a great team. Thank you all. So welcome to our service on the eve of the winter solstice, arguably the most significant date on religious calendars everywhere. We're pretty certain that Jesus was not born in December, but that date was chosen by Pope Gregory to coincide with pagan festivals of the winter solstice. And of course, this is the last service before Christmas. So Merry Christmas and season's greetings to everyone. During the service today, the chat function will be open, and I invite you to extend your hospitality and say hello to anyone that you do not recognize or anyone that you may not have seen for a while. If you're new or returning after a long absence, you may want to leave your contact information in the chat section. And if you're not already receiving notifications from our church and you would like to get updates on our activities and services, please send an email to minister@uuch.ca. Before we proceed, I have a few announcements. The order of service that was sent out on Saturday, over, I think it was Friday night. It contains more detail on the following. Our Every Member Pledge campaign is wrapping up now. Our members and friends have been very generous with their pledges for 2021, but we're still several $1,000s short of our very ambitious goal of $124,445. We've committed to increase our staff salaries by half of the requirement for living wage in 2021. So this will definitely be happening. Many of you increased your pledges for next year when you heard of our plan. So we know that you're agreed that this is a just goal worthy of a Unitarian Universalist congregation. We're not planning a Close the Gap campaign this year, but if any of you want to make that extra last-minute donation to this cause in time to get a 2020 tax receipt, that would always be welcome. Canvassers have been in contact with most of the members and friends by now. If you have not been contacted and would like to be, please notify Margaret Galbraith. Her email is in the order of service announcements. Second item, we want you to stay in touch despite COVID-19 over the holidays. If you're feeling the need to speak to someone, please reach out to me, Reverend Norma Rothker, or to Sylvia Mattinson of the Caring Committee. Every Thursday evening at 7 p.m., including this week on Christmas Eve, we host an online gathering to allow us to break out of our isolation. Again, that link is in the order of service. And some positive news, resumption of services in the sanctuary, with changes approved by the Chief Medical Officer beginning next week. We'll be able to welcome people back to our sanctuary in limited numbers for Sunday services. If you're planning to attend the service in person, we ask that you contact Margaret Galbraith so that we can manage the logistics. Tonight, December 20th at 7 p.m., we'll be live streaming our 9th annual Blue Christmas service from Bearley's House of the Blues and Ribs. If there ever was a year for a Blue Christmas service, this is it. We're hoping to lift the spirits of everyone who joins the service with a theme of the return of the light. And toward that end, we've engaged the wonderful local singer-songwriter, Renee Smith, who will be live on stage at Bearley's, along with our own James Morris and Jessica Friesen. Again, there is a link to the Zoom contact, and you can also watch it on our YouTube channel, and there's a link to get there as well. Wanted to note that our wonderful Saturday brunch crew assembled some very special gifts to go along with the lunches we're distributing this past Saturday. Here's a picture of Kathy, our de facto leader, with the lunches. Kath is backed up by a great group of neighborhood lunch team members. They have chosen to continue serving lunches on Boxing Day and on the day after New Year's. We're not going to miss a beat. I know that our neighbors are very grateful. And our food hamper received a wonderful boost from the early Halifax Childhood School that have been our tenants since 1960. I had to share this picture with you. So now I invite you to relax and feel the holiday spirit wash over you as Jessica gives us our prelude.
One of my favorite songs of Christmas.
Thank you. At this point in our service, we pause to acknowledge the history of our relationships with the Indigenous peoples of Mi'kma'ki. This morning, Brian Gifford, a member of our Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation team, will speak to us. Brian?
Edaway Willinipi Alasutman, Jason Benoit of Newfoundland's Benoit First Nation, describes how many aspects of the Christmas story fit well with the beliefs of the Mi'kmaq people. He has written that, as with other Indigenous people, the practice of exchanging gifts and giveaways was widespread for various purposes among the Mi'kmaq before Europeans arrived. To the Mi'kmaq people, the spirit world centered around a powerful creator from whom all things came. In this great universe, the values of sharing, love, and caring for each other were surrounded by intricate layers of relations, social practices, and oral teachings that existed through tribe and family kinship. The Mi'kmaq have always had a predominant belief that the child is a sacred gift from the creator, end quote. You can see how these values are reflected in the Christmas story. Most of these values are shared by members of this church. These and other shared values are a good basis for building our relationship with the Mi'kmaq. One way to say Merry Christmas in Mi'kmaq is Edaway Willinipi Alasutman, which means Happy Midnight Prayer, arising from that Catholic tradition. A fitting sentiment for this service focusing on stillness. Edaway Willinipi Alasutman.
A single flame can warm a room. A single word can calm a fear. A single smile can lift a heart. A single touch can heal a wound. As the light replaces darkness, let us rejoice together in its rebirth. And now Jessica has an opening hymn for us, again, perfect for a winter solstice.
It's not a hymn, but the Yule Winter Solstice song is called "The Sun Is Born," and it's by Diane Baker. So we'll be singing it a couple times through, since it is a round song, but I mean, we don't have that many people in here, and I don't have 3 voices. So please follow along. The words will be on your screen. The sun is born again today. We breathe the sun's first morning rain. We sing the celebrate the light. The sun born in the longest night. The sun is born again today. We breathe the sun's first morning rain. We sing and celebrate the light. The sun born in the longest night. Let me hear you. The sun is born again today. We breathe the sun's first morning rain. We sing and celebrate the light. The sun's born in the longest night. Sun's born in the longest night.
Thank you. Our Time for Children of All Ages is a joint production with our music director, Jessica, and our director of religious exploration, Marie Claude. So take it away, Marie and Jessica.
Good morning, everyone. Today, Jessica will be singing the English version of the Huron Carol for us. The original song, Jesu Hahatonia, is considered by many as the first Canadian Christmas carol. It was written sometime in the early 1640s by a French Jesuit missionary in the Wyandot language, Huron being the European descriptor for the Wyandot people. Have courage, you who are humans, Jesus is born, is the Wyandot translation, and the song is one of the earliest recountings of the Christ story in an Indigenous language. In 1650, about 300 Wyandot fled to a mission in New France, carrying the Christmas carol they had learned with them on the 50-day journey east. And they continued to sing this song for hundreds of years, passed down orally from one generation to another. Today, the original song is still sung in the Wyandot community at the Catholic Church, where it's afforded a special place for the Christmas season. The song you'll hear today is the published English version from 1927, which is a complete rewriting for English speakers. Many Indigenous Christians in North America have embraced the Huron Carol and sing it every Christmas season. The carol has come to occupy a significant place in the cultural history of Canada. Whether in its original Wyandot language, translated in Cree or Mi'kmaq, or its English version, many North American Indigenous people have seen it as an embodiment of an Indigenous response to the Christian faith, an important part of our complex and shared history. Despite its complex legacy, as one Wyandot elder notes, we continue to sing it to make our ancestors live. We hold it in our hearts because it comes from our ancestors and they sang it. I encourage you to listen to the Wyandot song online in its original language. And this morning, we'll hear Jessica's beautiful rendition.
Thank you, Marie Claude. There we go. Was in the broad of winter time when all the birds had fled, and mighty good she ran to send angel choirs instead. Before the light the stars grew dim, and wandering hunters heard the hymn. Jesus, your King is born. Jesus is born. In action Holy child of birth and heavens born today for you. Come kneel before the radiant boy who brings you beauty, peace, and joy. Jesus, your King is born. Jesus is born. In excelsis glory above.
Thank you, Marie-Claude and Jessica. We take this special time now to reflect on our joys and sorrows. It's a sacred time in our service, a time set apart to honor the many joys and the many sorrows that you, the congregation, are living, and to acknowledge the mutual support of our community. Jessica's here to help us this morning. Thank you. And now I'll ask Jessica to light one candle for all those who are here with us in spirit or in our thoughts, who are struggling mentally, physically, financially, or emotionally. And Jessica will light a second candle for all the joys that are here with us, the big joys that come along only infrequently, and the little joys that we're blessed with every day if we're able to see them. And we'll light a third candle for all the members and friends of our community who are shut in long-term care homes. A candle for John Patterson and Marie Davis and Irisha Cox and Ann Wood and Norm Sabowitz and Dr. Philip Welch. Each week I invite anyone with a joy or a sorrow to share at this time to relay their thoughts to me by email. It has been a very difficult year in Nova Scotia in so many ways. And in the last week, we learned of the loss of the lives of 5 fishers. I want to ask Jessica to light 5 separate candles, one for each of the fishers who lost their lives this week when their scallop fishing boat sank. Captain Charles Roberts, crew Aaron Cogswell, Michael Drake, Daniel Forbes, Gino Francis, and Leonard Gabriel. And I received this message from C. Connor. December 23rd marks the 1-year anniversary of my mom's death. She was a mother and grandmother to Sophia, Sean, and Izzy. On this day, she writes, I will go to Conrod's Beach to scatter flower petals where my dad and my sister's ashes are scattered. Please light a candle for me and for our family. And lastly, I received a request to light a candle for the sun, symbolic recognition of the winter solstice and the end of the shortening days and the beginning of the return of light. Thank you. Later, when we stop live streaming on YouTube and before the coffee hour begins, I'll invite anyone else to share a joy or a sorrow if they would like to do so. The reflective hymn this morning is very special. And I know Jessica got some coaching from her grandparents.
Stille Nacht, silent night. So I hope I do my grandparents proud. Jesus, wound at thy cross. Jesus, wound at thy cross.
May the joys and sorrows, both those acknowledged here this morning and those held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, weave us together in the interdependent fabric of community. And now James has a Yule reading for us.
This is a reading from the poet Susan Cooper. It's a beautiful poem and is perfect for this time of year. I hope it will make you feel recharged and ready for the promising new year. And so the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen, all the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day. As promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And now, so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule.
Thank you, James. The picture on the cover of the order of service today, if you got to look at it, is from a cave in southern France. This particular cave is known as the Chauvet Cave. I think it's named after the spelunker that managed to get inside it for the first time. It's located, as I said, in southern France, and the associated art decorating its walls was only discovered in 1994, having been sealed off from human eyes by a rockfall for over 30,000 years. When these paintings were made, the earth was still in the grip of the last ice age. The climate in southern France was more like the climate in Sweden today. The people who made this art were mentally and physically the same as you and me. They were just as intelligent. All that separated us is the technology that it would take millennia to develop. I'm overwhelmed when I look at the skill required for drawing the lioness on the right side of that frame. It's believed that at this time people lived in small groups, perhaps many kilometers distant from each other. They were entirely dependent on the animals and plants that they could harvest. And survival required that they pay close attention to their relationship with all of nature. Their lives depended on it every day, and they almost certainly celebrated the winter solstice, the time when the increasing darkness was reversed and the days began to lengthen again. These paintings, incredibly, were created deep inside a cave, cut off from any daylight. Their creation required long, arduous hours in stagnant air, illuminated by smoky torchlight, often working from scaffolds. These were works of spiritual commitment. Our theme for the month is stillness, and I can imagine in my mind's eye entering into one of these caves, these spaces that would be still and silent, lit only by the flickering light of torches. Today, many of us struggle to develop a sense of spirituality in our lives. Over the millennia, we become more spiritually impoverished as we became less connected to the natural world, isolated by the technology we were creating. If we lived in the forest, depending on the bounty of the natural world, but always aware of how precarious that could be, a sense of spirituality would be as natural as breathing. At least in Europe, as our technology advanced, we moved away from a sense of awe in the natural world. We created an artificial reality based on a God made in our own image. And we came to see ourselves as all-powerful with dominion over the natural world. And our spirituality, when it existed, became more and more disconnected from the natural world. We began to overthink our spirituality. We invented complex stories and creeds and dogmas that everyone was expected to believe literally. These paintings were created deep inside a cave, cut off from daylight. Their creation required long, arduous hours in stagnant air, illuminated by smoky torchlight, often working from scaffolds. These were works of spiritual commitment. Our theme for this month is stillness. Imagine entering into one of these sacred spaces, still and silent, lit only by flickering light of torches. Our religious holidays today still follow the pattern of the cycles of nature. It's no accident that Christmas is celebrated near the winter solstice, even though Jesus was likely born sometime in July or August. If we're connected with nature, the winter solstice has real power. This time of year, many of us hold two competing visions in our mind. The idea of a winter solstice is a powerful reminder of the cycles of life. And we're also immersed in a largely culturally Christian society with its complex theology, creed, and dogmas. Our Western culture is in fact rooted in the stories of the Bible. As UUs, we celebrate both perspectives. Richard Rohr has said, rejecting the either-or of mindset, stillness requires the ability to hold contradicting ideas in mind. And that's fundamental to spirituality. And now to transition from one of those ideas, the solstice, to the other, Christmas, Jessica has a musical gift for us.
I had a lot of fun putting this together. I had asked everyone if they could send me some meaningful Christmas pieces, holiday, seasonal music, and I did get quite a lot. So I wasn't able to put all of them in here, or this would have been a 10-minute song. So I hope you enjoy what I'm calling the UU Christmas Medley. Joy to the world, the Lord has done.
faithful friends who are near to us,
gathered near to us once more. Through the years we all meet together, if the fates allow, and a shining star upon the highest bough. Everyone,
and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
thank you, everyone.
And we all thank you, Jessica. Very well done. Winter Solstice and Holy Days, Part 2. We are such arrogant creatures. We think we're so much wiser than our ancestors, than those people who drew those amazing pictures in that cave in southern France. The truth is that when it comes to understanding our experience of life, we are no better off, or maybe worse. Sometimes we think that because we have learned how to explain the universe mathematically, that there's no need of a spiritual connection. I heard an author describing his book about how human life on Earth is the result of an infinite number of random chance occurrences. Gave the example of the striking of Earth by an asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, enabled the mammals to flourish, and eventually led to human beings through a whole bunch of other chance events of evolution and changes in the DNA. Well, that's one way to look at it. But actually, the story is much bigger and much more amazing than that. Another way to look at this is to realize that our generally accepted scientific view of the universe is that it is infinite in extent. We can see billions of galaxies made up of billions of stars surrounded by uncountable numbers of planets. And that's what we can see. And if we could go to the edge of that universe, we would see an equally large number, and so on and so on. In an infinite universe, not only are you and I possible, we're inevitable. We were ordained at the instant the universe sprang into being. The winter solstice occurs at 6:02 a.m. tomorrow morning, meaning that tonight will be the longest night of the year for the Northern Hemisphere. And thereafter, the days will be getting longer and the light will return. We're part of that great cycle here in this little corner of an infinite universe. The Winter Festival has much older roots than the birth of Jesus, and its roots are more anchored in human need than in divine appearances. But the birth of Jesus, as told in the Christian scriptures, is a story of hope, a story that has universal appeal. The universal story of this time of year is not about happiness and joy, nor is it about family gathered and turkey and feasts. It's not about gifts given and received or any of those trappings that can weigh down our Decembers. No, the Winter Festival is really about darkness becoming light, about despair becoming hope, about finding ways out of aloneness and reaching out to make connections. The origins of these festivals, now all lumped together into Christmas, is about the solstice. It's about the longest and coldest night of the year. The poet once wrote about the agony of the long, dark night of the soul, about how it's the darkness that we feel most isolated, most afraid, most in despair. But when the sun does reach its lowest point, and on the solstice, the light begins to return again. In ancient days, this was the holy day, and the cause for the feasting wasn't joy, but hope. Hope that the coming year would be prosperous, hope that whatever we had experienced that it was bad could be left behind. The coming back of the longer days, bit by bit, brought the promise of renewal and made it possible. The change could come, that the loneliness and the despair did not have to be permanent. The change does not come quickly, nor does the renewing light, just a few minutes a day. But change is possible. We only have to take the time to notice the brightening in the sky. We only have to hang on until things get better. And now I invite James Morris, who has a special musical gift for us.
This is a Hanukkah song. I heard a recording by Kenny G. It's called Eternal Light. It has some interesting pulling and rhythm. Hopefully I'll be able to keep that in, going off the rails. But this is a wonderful sort of melancholy song to read for.
Thank you, James. So doing online services, we don't normally take up a collection online. We've been reading a note from our treasurer every week, or from our board every week. But at the end of the year, it just seems like so much talk about money as the year comes to a close. This morning, I just want to thank the members of the congregation for their most generous support of our staff and the mission of this congregation. I will note that you still have 11 days to get a 2020 tax receipt, if you want to do that. And now I'll turn it over to Jessica again to help us begin the end of the service with a seasonal favorite from our hymnal.
Oh, we believe in Christmas. I remember last year, it's been a year, I think, since I have been your music director, and I never knew this song, and you all taught it to me. So please sing as loud as you can at home. Sing loud and proud, like I always say. Oh, we believe in Christmas and we keep Christmas Day. And we will honor Christmas the ancient worldwide way. The Christmas of all people, the sun's returning cheer. Rung out from towers and steeples at midnight of the year. And we will join at Christmas the song of hope and joy that finds its being at Christmas in every girl and boy. The flame of love will dwindle as fades the sunset sky, until a child shall kindle new light and raise it high. Then sing we all,
And sing we all at Christmas
the
song of that new birth, which holds the hope of Christmas and brings its joy to earth, which knits the generations, each daughter and each son, beyond all tribes and nations, and makes them many one.
Shine out, ye lights,
Shine out, ye lights of Christmas, from hearth and tree and star, and let the warmth of Christmas shed kindness near and far, and clang ye bells of Christmas
upon the frosty air. And may the joys of Christmas spread gladness everywhere.
Before I extinguish the chalice, these words in the pagan tradition. As we leave this gathering, let us carry this warmth, let us share this light. May the flame grow deep within us. May the world be transformed by our brilliance. As we're fortified by the sun's triumphant return, so mote it be. Thank you all for attending the service today by Zoom or by YouTube. I'll say goodbye to those who joined us by YouTube now, and we'll end our live streaming. Thank you again, and go in peace.